Hello, and welcome to the Coaches Corner, brought to you by the Endurance Lab, where the coaches from the lab recap the week and answer a couple of questions from the forum. My name is Jason Flores, one of the Endurance Lab coaches, and I'm joined by Taya Friested, Andrea Cullen, and Ian Murray today. The gang is all back, everybody. Good morning, coaches.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah. Gang is all here. This is exciting. All right, it's been a good week. We are in week 2 of the Endurance Lab, if I'm correct. We are going to jump straight into this lab and kind of get a jump on what's going on out there. It's been a big change. We talked a little bit last week of kind of the adaptations that we were having and kind of the struggles and things that were going on with our riders, just adapting to these new type of workouts, the challenges that they are facing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to kick it off with Ian. We're happy to have him back. He is all moved, but he's got lots of stories, and so do I. So we've got lots of conversation to have today. We're going to start off with talking a little bit about strength and on the multi-sport side and what's going on with that world of things, Ian.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So yeah, we're getting into our strength pattern for our power lab here, and then from the multi-sport side, we're getting into some really harder efforts, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. As far as the strength side, our big one today was the full body Tabatas, which was on Monday, and then most of the rest of the week was light core and heavily focused on stretching. As we're really ramping up our intensity in this power lab, we got to make sure we keep the body limber and able to heal itself. And a lot of that core work and stretching that we're doing does facilitate that recovery. And as we move through this, that's going to be the most important, is teaching your body to recover after these hard efforts, because there's only 2 easy weeks in this lab, and we're definitely pushing through and getting everybody ready for their prime events of the year.
Absolutely, super not intense, I just want to say that it's really testing the body here and making sure that we have those efforts and be able to recover there.
Yeah, that's definitely it. And then when we look at the multi-sport side of the house, we're really starting to build up some speed. If you remember our performance side, in the last few weeks, we started trying to sharpen the knives, make everyone a little bit faster after we build some endurance. And this is where we're continuing to building that power on the run, so we can throw down that extra kick, so we can put in those surges, so we can really get that capability to destroy your opponent, see them driven before you. And we are still working a little bit on volume, but our big focus for these first few weeks is building that power in the legs, being able to get off the blocks, being able to get out of the transition, being able to crush that guy or lady at the end of the race. And that's where we're really working on turning out those fast, shorter efforts. It's not a really hard day, but those shorter, fast efforts are definitely in there. And those are things that you're going to feel if you're on the northern side of 40. You definitely need to be able to recover and make sure that you're taking care of your body after those, so you don't have any little injuries or just nagging soreness after the fact.
Yeah, always got to watch out for those little niggles, I guess it would be the term. But definitely a different system that we're tapping into. So we are going to talk a little bit about that and kind of what those efforts are like, and kind of what we need to do to make sure that we're recovering from those things. On the skill side, we've got a really great lineup this week. Taya will take us through it here.
So we started out with the 10.53 threshold over-under, and we've done quite a bit of over-under in other labs as well. The difference is, for this one, the overs are a little bit higher and the unders are also a little bit higher in terms of percentage of FTP. Really designed to build that muscular endurance, work on your FTP, and the ability to hold and sustain sweet spot and absorb surges, and after that coming back to that sweet spot and holding it. Then we moved on to lactate tolerance reps. So those are time spent on VO2, a little bit longer than those 30-second intervals, super fast, that we have done a little bit, and we'll still do ahead here. But the tolerance reps is really to adapt your body to tolerating higher levels of lactate, holding high VO2 for 90 seconds to 2-minute intervals. And then we close the week with the, we have the 10.53 tempo ride on Sunday, but also on, before that, we have the road race simulation workout, which has been everyone's favorite, and we're already getting a lot of comments of how much they love that workout that Coach Ian designed, which is really race-based efforts for road race events and simulates the opening round of attacks trying to establish a breakaway. Great workout.
Yeah, I really liked when I built that. I went, this is going to be hard, and I've had a couple people tell me, yeah, it was, but a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun, and if you can survive that one, it definitely will help prepare you for the effects of a road race.
Totally. I think as we go through the workouts, and for those that are in the endurance lab, we look at kind of the whole week as a whole, and could look overwhelming. And we did talk about this in the first week. I think it's important that as we highlight the 4 workouts here, these are the 4 key workouts of the week to make sure that you are hitting. And if in fact your time is even less than that, the first 3 that Coach Taya had mentioned here are your key workouts. So just remember that, kind of be able to take a look at the forest through the trees, and making sure that it would be the trees through the forest, excuse me, to make sure that you know and you can dial in on what the 4 key workouts or your key workouts are the week. It will be different for each athlete, but we have the layout for all levels of athletes here.
Yeah, and on that too, a lot of people are going to look at that 10:53, the 90-minute workout, and they might be intimidated by it. I just did it yesterday. I will tell you that on tired legs, it will feel tough, but it's not actually that tough a workout. It's a very good workout to help develop that tempo level effort. It's not as challenging as one would just look at it, because there's not a lot of difference in your work versus recovery, but you're never going so hard. And in fact, I found it hard to control myself to not go too hard during the hard effort. So I really think as people get to that one, they may look at it and go, oh, wow, there's not much recovery. Yeah, but it's not a lot of work. So you can definitely get through it. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised how that will facilitate the start of a new week coming off that workout.
That's right. And it's really the zones blended in for that workout at the end of the week is all by design, right? It's all very well thought of. It all works together. It is supposed to be a workout that comes after an intense day. And so as you look at the week, the pattern that you see with, a hard day and then followed by an easier day or followed by an endurance day, this is all really meant to work together to give your body, you continue to progress in your training. At the same time, you're getting the rest that you need in between.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what was it? Oh, I was going to say that the threshold of having this 90-minute workout or going over 60 minutes, or really kind of pushing that for those riders that haven't done a lot of riding. One thing to remember, obviously, if you are doing this indoors or more focused training, the time spent on the trainer or doing this focused workout can sometimes be quoted up to 1.5 times of time spent outside at stoplights and slowing down and that sort of thing. So just remember, it's very, very concentrated. So it will pay dividends on the other end for your fitness. So coming out on the other side, will definitely feel that. All right, we are going to jump to hot topics in the lab. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. We've got a couple things here. I am going to start out with the elephant in the room, and we're going to say good morning to Andrea. First of all,
that's not very nice.
Oh, bad. You're right.
The elephant in the room is the topic, not the
topic. Right. So the topic that we are talking about is there's been a little bit of talk in a very, very popular and busy part of the forum, which is our accountability topic, where riders are jumping in, looking for accountability to each other on the things that they are using to fuel their workouts, their rest days, and just making sure that their goals are on tap. And so the topic we're going to wanted to talk about, or at least hit on, to get us at least a 100-foot view, some perspective on how we can use this, is what's called intermittent fasting. And so we're hoping to at least get a couple of ideas straightened up, a couple warnings on how to use it. And Andrea is definitely the best person for that. So good morning, Andrea.
Good morning. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. This was thrown at me last night. So I was swimming this morning going, do my workout. And then it's like, oh, intermittent fasting. Got to think about that.
We're so nice.
So first off, for me, I can't go for a huge amount of time. So intermittent fasting isn't a thing that I do myself, but I'm always really, really interested to read what's going on out there. For me, my biggest detox would probably be people and social media. I think I'd gain a lot more out of that than giving up my food.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really interesting research on intermittent fasting, and I've been sort of watching it on the side, and we're seeing a benefit for immune system function, for inflammation, for aging, for digestion, and for some people, weight control. I actually had a client recently, and there was a lot that we needed to do with his diet, and this is where I felt it was more important to focus. But he wanted to try intermittent fasting, and I'll always embrace what people want to try and do. So I said, fine, great, I'll support you. And it worked for him. It just created a focus where he pulled everything together around it. So I was like, okay, it's good to keep an open mind about what people are drawn to and what works for them. I also feel, just watching men's natural eating patterns, that men sort of deviate towards fasting naturally. Like, I'll often see guys go for a long, long time during the day without eating and have no issue. And for women, we seem to be quite different. We have a huge emotional attachment to food. And I feel sometimes the more, as women, that we control it, the more we can kind of start to touch into disordered eating and eating disorder patterns, as well as physical problems with our hormones and our bone density. So it's interesting, and there's some very cool science, but I always then like to, Jason mentioned 100-foot distance. I try and look at things with a bit of an open perspective, and I feel we have to put some context on things. So when we look at research in intermittent fasting, most people have a bad diet anyway, and they'd have a lot of inflammation and chronic health problems. Most people have chronically poor sleep. They have a lack of exercise, they drink too much, and they have a poor lifestyle. So anything that they do to make things better is going to show up a big benefit. So we have to ask then, if we took really, really healthy sample populations and then got them intermittent fasting, what would happen? Or are there other ways to achieve better gut health, better inflammation or insulin control, improved diets for weight control? And I think there are many, many ways to achieve a similar outcome that may not be so drastic.
This is very interesting, Andrea, because it's really learning to crawl before you walk, learning to walk before you run, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great point.
And even then asking, well, do I need to do this? I have used often what I would call a medical detox for people with chronic gastro problems like Crohn's or irritable bowel syndrome, or they might have a post-infectious disease going on within the gut or parasites, where I'll put them on like a medical protein that covers all their vitamins and minerals, juices, broths. So I'm still covering their nutrition, but giving their gut a rest and allowing it to heal. And that's very successful. So then we need to look at, I don't think it's normal for us to be eating every couple of hours consistently throughout the year. Just through evolution, we would have had times when we kind of starved ourselves, or there was a famine and then there was a feast. So that sort of pattern is probably more natural to us. But our whole lives aren't natural anymore. Even Ironman or long distance cycling or endurance training isn't natural. Who would have done several hours training every day? The training that we do, the big volume training, increases our nutrition needs. So whatever we decide to do with our diets, it definitely has to provide us with more rather than less. And if we're going to include intermittent fasting, then you really, really need to think about how you're going to meet your nutrition needs and fuel your training.
It's super key.
So do you need to do it? Or, as Thea very importantly mentioned, is there so many other things you need to work on to get all the basics right? Get the basics right, then look at periodizing your nutrition around your training day, your training week, your training season. And then, we look at what other things can we tweak. If you're going to do it, you need to look at timing your energy and your meals around your active times. So the work that you're doing with your physical body, you need to get the nutrition in to support your training. and your recovery. So if you're going to intermittently fast, you need to consider what time of the day are you training? What is the type of training that you're doing? Then you need to ensure that your nutrition needs are met. So you need to make sure that in the times that you are eating, you get your vitamins, your minerals, your antioxidants, your essential amino acids, your healthy fats, and your trace minerals. So you have to get more in. And then could you add in some support to make sure you're covering those? Well, the medical proteins that I mentioned can be really, really helpful. So 2 brands that I like would be Metagenics, Ultra Inflamex, I think it's called, and Thorne Research Medicare Plus.
So what's the difference between a regular protein and a medical protein?
So the medical protein, if it's made by a good company like Thorne or Metagenics, will have they will have vitamins and minerals in their absorbable forms. So the correct form of B6 and B12, the correct form of calcium and magnesium, et cetera, et cetera. So they'll have a low dose of a balance of all of your vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. Then they'll tend to have additional ingredients in there to support the gut, inflammation, and liver detoxification function generally. Maybe some more turmeric or glutamine or glycine or various things. So it's sort of like a meal replacement, which also supports healing, inflammation, and various organ function. They're brilliant, actually. I use one without having any problems.
Yeah, and I think writers can definitely lean on these sort of things, and that's the thing that's important with intermittent fasting. Naturally, because if you do a shortened or a shortened time that you are eating, it's like Andrea mentioned, you need to make sure that you're getting the nutrition in, and that's why we're talking about these sort of supplies or these sort of resources. Because when you do put the fuel in, it needs to be the right fuel for the things that you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always believe the focus should be on more of the good stuff in rather than taking things out. I learned a powerful lesson myself this week. I said, "Well, Andrea, you eat far too much peanut butter. I'm not going to eat peanut butter this week." That was a goal. And by lunchtime, I was eating peanut butter because I had told myself not to do something. And of course, we never do what we tell ourselves not to do. Instead, I should have been, let's add in more of this, that, and the other. And I think there's various personalities that kick back against rules. So I think the focus should always be on getting in more of the good stuff.
Who knew Andrew was such a rebel?
I know.
And it's peanut butter. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about my chocolate habit.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, peanut butter, that's pretty much the same thing as if you're just drinking whiskey at 7 a.m.
Do you know what? I actually do have a very good diet, and it's just full of good stuff and really nice.
I thought you were going to say I actually drink
whiskey. I do drink whiskey.
In the morning.
Whiskey's terrible. I used to hate the stuff, and then I did a whiskey tour. Oh, that was the end of everything. So what else? Timing.
Yes.
Some people fast on a day off. However, think about what might your body need to be doing on that day off as well. There's a lot of recovery happening. So it's really important that you think about when you're doing it. Should it be maybe in the off season or the recovery? Yeah. And I think intuition is a good thing there. You kind of know, and your appetite is going to tell you, and how you feel and how much stress you have going on, how well you've slept, all of these other things. Because instead of maybe doing an intermittent fast, maybe you could be going and having a good lymphatic drainage massage or an Epsom salt bath or something. So it's being fluid and kind of proactive and reactive with, what's best for you, rather than getting too strict about things.
So why would somebody want to do intermittent fasting? What's the main goal there? Is it a cleanse? Is it weight loss? Is it both?
Now, cleansing or detoxing is a really interesting word, because a lot of people will say, I might be at a dinner and someone's randomly talking about nutrition, and I never get involved then.
Oh, no.
And they'll say, I'm going on a detox, and I'm going to do juicing for the next couple of days. Or recently in South Africa, I heard some people are doing water fasts. Don't start me.
Yeah.
And the thing about detoxing is that when you cut all the calories out, your body starts to mobilize body fat, and you store toxins naturally in your body fat. So these get released into the bloodstream, which then hit the liver and the kidneys. And your body has to actually work harder to process these fat-soluble toxins that you've stored. And to process them, we need cofactors from vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, amino acids. But on the detox, you've cut a lot of this out, plus the energy to do the work. And then you get a headache and you go, yes, and it was so good, I got my detox headache. And I'm like, no, that's because your body isn't handling all the shit that's coming into it through the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification systems. So a well-done detox is actually about eating better. So maybe having more bone broths, good quality protein, cutting out gluten, cutting out dairy. Controversial, yes, but perhaps for some of us will benefit from that. Lots more salads, a lot more healthy omega-3, very simple to digest foods. So maybe a stir fry, white fish, some brown rice if it suits you, and then maybe add in the juices and the broths, and if you want to add in a medical protein. So if we want to detox, we should probably be looking at doing a week of really, really good eating rather than 1 or 2 days of not very much. Unless you have a serious gut issue, when then maybe switching to liquid foods and amplified nutrition will give your system a time to heal if there's inflammation going on in the gut. Does that make sense, Thea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the second part of that question, B, is why do riders do it? I think my impression is a lot of times they want to carry over their weight loss goals during, let's say, the off season, which we touched a little bit on about talking about wanting to choose the right time when we do this sort of goal looking for wanting to lose weight. They want to continue that during their training season. But again, it speaks to, is it something that we want to do during this time? Do you want to try to be what we have called before, burn the candle on both ends, where we're trying to like race and fuel and ride, high intensity rides like we've been talking about with the VO2 max rides we have during this time? Or are you trying to, keep the weight down, which a lot of times if you just have the right things that you're putting in, like Andrea's describing for a rest day or for something that you may put more carbohydrates in to fuel your workout during that day or to recover, would you just do better at maintaining that weight and that kind of that physique during this heavier training time? And I think that would be the side that a lot of us kind of lean on, where we would train hard, fuel properly, and give the body what it needs to complete those workouts.
Yeah, consistency is key. Just day by day, matching getting in good quality food and timing it around your training. Because what you'll start to see is when people start these cycles of restriction, is you'll see rapid weight loss because of depleted glycogen stores and water loss. And then they might do one day when they eat a little bit more and the scales is going straight up again, and then they get frustrated and then they're going really strict again, and it becomes this negative cycle. Because it's always the carbs that everybody seems to drop out. So I think it's having a bit of balance on all of it and realizing that it's going to take a bit of patience, just like your fitness and experience takes a while. The slow, steady weight loss with lean mass gain is actually sustainable and what you want to be achieving. Because when we're dropping rapidly up and down, nothing's changing apart from water, mostly.
That cannot be true. I've seen a lot of these shows and a lot of these commercials. Rapid changes, and they're forever lasting.
Yeah.
I'll go back. Go ahead, Andrea.
That's generally when they have a picture of a lady before and after, and in the before she's just had a baby, and then after she started back training. We're fools to believe half the stuff we believe. You have to be so cynical when it comes to marketing and advertising.
Because it's what we want to believe.
Yeah,
exactly.
And just going back to the point that you made earlier in terms of difference between men and women with the fasting, I can speak from experience. There is no way I'm doing any fasting unless, like I said before, I have to do a blood test for my annual exam. Otherwise, I would rather be working hard at eating well continuously, but I'll skip the fasting.
There is really interesting research on this actually, where they've looked at when there's periods of time within the day when we drop into low calorie availability and the pulsatility of various hormones for women and bone mass, bone deposition. And they found that even within the day, if there's periods of us not getting enough energy in, that we can affect our bone density. There's a woman who writes, her blog is Nikki K, fitness.com or co.uk. It's NICKYKEAY. And she's an endocrinologist, and she is an area, she specializes in kind of restricted eating, low calorie intake, bone density. And they found the same in male cyclists as well. So that's an interesting one. And that's where women are the worst, is we'll do that long cycle, we'll kind of just about meet our energy needs, and then we'll think, oh, but I'm trying to stretch it out for 2 hours before I eat. And that's where we could actually be doing ourselves a lot of damage, not only on the adrenals, our recovery and our adaptions from training, but also on our bone density, which then will lead to stress fractures and all sorts of problems further down the line. We've got to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we've talked to a number of people in the lab about that, the eating post-workout immediately and what they're doing, because there's a lot of people who basically follow that same mentality of, oh, well, I ate during the workout, so I'm good. I don't need to eat again, and I don't want to overeat because I only train for an hour, and it's so detrimental to your recovery.
Yeah, I think it depends scenarios. So if you feel really well before, you may not need to eat again until after the workout, or if you feel well during, you may be able to stretch it, but it all depends. Intensity and duration are kind of what you look at.
And also when your next session is.
Yes. So even a small amount of protein, if you're not sure, like, just a tablespoon or two of protein in a shaker, maybe all you need just to ensure there's some recovery. But so generally, yes, do definitely be fueling.
Well, and the other part of it I look at is it's habit too. If you're teaching your body, I work out, I eat something, I work out, I eat something, I work out, I eat something, even if it's small, you're not going to have that gut distress when you have that workout that you have to eat and you're just not used to doing it.
Yeah.
That's why I make sure I have a pizza on standby post every workout.
Yeah. So with the roundup here, what we're looking at is making sure that we are fueling our workouts. Yeah, you have a good understanding of how we can use this as a tool, if in fact you are going to use it as a tool, and a little bit about kind of how it could affect your training. I think I do speak for the coaches as kind of as a whole. We need to use it as a tool at the right time if you want to try it. It is something that is definitely interesting, but because we are athletes, or we at least are budding athletes and wanting to make sure that we are getting the most out of our training, especially during the time that we're at and our more intense workouts, we want to make sure we're fueling for those. So I think that's kind of the big picture there. But thank you. Some really great information there, Andrea. I think you did a great job at making sure we got all the little nooks and crannies information in there.
Great.
All right, so we are going to move over to Ian, and he is in the midst of probably sitting in the middle of the floor with a microphone and a computer. He has actually moved to a new place, and he's going to talk a little bit to us about moving and travel stress. I've got a little bit, or I would say a lot of this here at the place where I'm at, and I'll share some of that. But Ian has got a much more interesting story, so let's hear it, Ian.
Yeah, so I mean, Jason I know is moving as well. He's moving like a whopping 25 minutes down the road. So I don't really want to hear it. We've moved countries, so we expect to get our stuff in the next 6 weeks or so. So right now I'm actually sitting on a couch because we purchased a couch, and I have a dining room table. I don't have chairs, so I can sit or I can eat, just not at the same time, or at least not in the same place. So that's actually our added strength workout, so we can do air squats while we eat. It's good for the legs. But no, so I think one of the things, and it's not just moving, it's when people have to go on extensive travel, and it can be for work, there's significant stress that comes with that and how it affects your training. So in particular with moving, I found that I've been exhausted for three to 4 weeks, and really my training hasn't been all that significant since the very beginning of May. Probably since middle of May, and I mean, I would end every day just completely beat. I drag out of bed. It's been very difficult in the last 2 weeks, especially to get some training in. And one of the things you see is the stress, the fatigue from stress is different from the fatigue from training. The fatigue from stress just doesn't go away. And that's the fatigue from training. With a day of recovery, you're usually pretty good. You can get back at it, maybe 2 days, or just light training will bring you back around. So one of the things when you're doing a lot of travel or you just have a lot of stress in your life where you're moving, really monitor that effect. Is your fatigue due to stress or is it due to training? If you wake up and you're just exhausted and you may not have done much the previous day as far as training goes, you're probably needing to manage your stress levels a little bit, or just accept the fact that your training is not going to go that well for a couple of days. And on that same note, your body is going to respond. And we'll cover that in a little bit, but your body's going to respond and things aren't going to work necessarily quite the way they normally work in a normal training environment or day. And we're going to see that in a number of different ways. And that's how you can manage your stress. One of them really is sleep. I know I'm generally a pretty decent sleeper, but the last few weeks, I mean, I maybe slept a good 4 hours a night, wake up, go back to sleep, wake up, go back to sleep, getting to bed late, getting up early still to try and get some training in. So trying to manage that stress, I was doing the best I could, but I know I found it very difficult because I was not able to get that sleep and that rest that my body normally requires. Jason, how have you found that side of the house with your move?
No, definitely. It's a weird thing when we all as coaches have a great understanding of, we do a workout, it gives us TSS, and we have fatigue and we recover. When you're moving these large objects and moving in ways that we don't typically move, and you're not getting the rest, one, because maybe the bed's not there to sleep on, or you're just doing things that you don't normally do for longer periods. And even though we only moved 25 minutes, it took us like over 17 hours to move upstairs. It was nuts. And it's just stresses that we don't normally put on our body. So when we talk to you guys about, stresses in your life, family, work, things outside of your training, these are those sort of things that affect, our numbers and affect your ability to recover and to be able to go out there and do a workout. I mean, I might have done, I think, Ian, did you go like 4 or 5 days during the move and really couldn't get on? Yeah. It was nuts.
Well, and so that's the other point I have for managing the stress is training versus exercising.
Yeah.
Training is what we're doing to try and prepare for a specific race, right? And while I'm doing that, I had to, for the last week or so, curtail that and just exercise. Whether it was 30 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes, whatever I could do, I was doing that exercise to relieve the stress, to make my body feel better. But I really wouldn't count what I did as training because it wasn't as much targeted because I just didn't have the energy to do a hard workout. I was more focused on just get my body just burning through some of that stress. That's all I was really doing. Yeah. And that's the important part of that.
Yeah, I definitely speak to that. Once I got the system set up, I have a little story of my pain cave, or my Zwift station is in the garage, and I taped out an 8-foot by 4-foot square that I keep my station in. And the movers kept putting stuff into that box, and I kept telling them, please don't put anything in that box. And they couldn't understand why. And I kept putting all of my bike stuff in that garage, in that little corner. But once I did get it set up, I did something light. I got some spinning. I got, to talk to everybody here on the team. And for whatever reason, it just was a little bit of relief. It was like that stress relief, and that's key.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. And that's what helps keep me sane. And I know my wife appreciates now that we're here, I can get a little more working out in. Because it keeps me from turning into the Hulk. But and as you go through your move or you go through your travel time, especially like I said, if you're doing extended travel where you have multiple bags, you really want to focus on how you're lifting things.
Yes.
In fact, my wife yelled at me because I was lifting things with my back, which is just because I was having to move it quick. And so when you're lifting your heavy suitcases, and trust me, we had a lot of suitcases. And there wasn't one of them that was light. Because we were authorized so many suitcases with our move. I mean, we literally had 6 of the big, 4-wheel roller suitcases.
Wow.
And of those 6, 4 of them were over 50 pounds.
You wouldn't think Ian would have a lot of luggage. He doesn't really wear T-shirts.
Yeah, it's not. None of it's mine. My 2 bags were the bike, the wheel, and actually I had one garment bag for the uniform. Other than that, it's all shorts.
It's all equipment.
it's all equipment and shorts. There's no yeah, no, and so you have to really focus on, because we all sit there and go, it's just one bag. It's just one bag. Well, you know what? When you load an SUV up with 10 bags, you know, you have to take them off the belt. You go through customs, you take them off the belt, you put them on the cart, you take them off the cart to put them back on the next belt. You get there the next place, you take them off the belt, put them on the cart, you take them off the cart, you put them in the truck. I mean, that's what I was really doing. I probably did about 50 minutes of strength of deadlifts for the most part, and cleans, getting everything loaded up. So don't underestimate that at all. And the other part of that is when you're moving, and Jason knows this as well, or when you're doing anything where you're unpacking stuff. It could be just like you bought a bunch of new things. Be conscious of the extended periods of time where you're bent over.
Yes.
If you can squat, it's so much better. Or even better yet, if you have a table wherever you are, which now we do, so we can do that, put the stuff up at an elevation or a level that you can work standing up or standing straight up, or seated and work straight out. If you have to sit or stand hunched over or bent over, yeah, your back is going to hurt bad, and it's not going to go away for days.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I have a 5-year-old here at the house, Ryland. Maybe a lot of you guys have seen him kind of streaming in online, and it's a good example. All of his friends, for example, when they do look at stuff like at school, and I kind of watch kind of carefully, they all squat or sit. And as adults, for whatever reason, as we grow up, we bend over, and it creates this very, very precarious situation where you're putting strain on muscles that are not very large. And so it's very difficult unless you were like bended knee straight back trying to pick something up for long periods of time, which nobody uses that form. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, squatting down is key. It's like to open boxes and things like that. Super key.
And then the last part I want to cover is eating, because I found, we had to go into a hotel for 6 days, and we definitely weren't eating the way we would normally eat because, well, let's face it, hotels. The only way I could have eaten like I normally would eat would be to spend about $90 per meal, because I would have had to select like 4 different meals to get the meal that I wanted. And we didn't have the ability to do our workout shakes that we like to do, or store the fruit. A lot of things we would normally do. Drinking water, because in Santo Domingo you have to drink bottled water. So, we were trying to not buy 17 cases of water from the hotel. So we were just, really, our diet changed significantly. And as good as we tried to be, and we tried to eat, salads when we could, we tried to eat healthy when we could, it just wasn't happening. Plus, farewell type dinners and things like that. So when you're having to do one of these moves or having to travel a lot, understand there's going to be a change in your diet and try and plan accordingly. If you can pack certain things that are going to help your system regulate itself, then that's good. If you can bring some of your own food, that's good. I understand sometimes you can't. But as soon as when you get that opportunity, try to get things as normal as possible, because you have to monitor exactly how you feel. And I will tell you, my mood was changed. My morning routine changed, while my food was changing, and starting to getting it back to normal again, which is great, because I actually travel again for 2 weeks starting tomorrow.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that's okay. I hopefully will be able to keep it a little more normal, because we'll be up in Canada, but I'm gonna hopefully keep it a little more normal there. And I think that's the other critical factor that people underestimate, is that what you can eat and what you're eating is really going to affect things. Whether it's your training, whether it's just your stress, or whether it's your mood, those all are going to impact greatly on what you do.
Yeah, so on that, as far as fueling and stuff, it's always a challenge. So use those things that we use, like when you're out trying to fuel for your workouts, trying to fuel for different things, and use those tips and tactics to kind of make good choices when you're out. That's really just key. Here we barely have got the kitchen going. I've got like one pan, and it's just easier to choose a place out. But then comes the stress of where are you going to eat, and you're in a new place, and then trying to choose that. So definitely could be on the stress side of things, but all really good points.
Yeah, and you can do quite a bit with one pot and one frying pan. You just have to be cautious with it. That's all we have right now is literally one frying pan. I don't think we even have a pot and a tea kettle. So that's what we're working with until we get our first shipment in, hopefully here when we get back. And then we'll have a couple pots, and we'll be good to go at that point.
Yeah, that's some really good information there, especially if people making the moves and how stress kind of relates to outside of our normal stress life. We had a question actually on YouTube Live. Andrea could maybe help us with this. Are you familiar with the Whole30, Andrea?
No.
Not
Can
so
you
much?
bring it up just
Yeah,
really
so
quick?
yeah. Let me give a top down. So Deirdre Robbins is here on YouTube. She was asking, what do we think about the Whole30 and training? So the Whole30 would essentially take a whole foods approach to feeding throughout the day. It's a 30-day essentially quote unquote challenge that allows people in the challenge to really focus on more whole foods. So it's a shift from more processed foods to more whole foods. And that is really the goal with that. So they've got like a green lit list of things that are approved, but a lot of it comes with the conversation that we have about real actual food that doesn't have an ingredient list. So essentially that's their focus. So as long as you're getting the amount of fueling, let's say carbohydrates that you need for the more intense workouts, I think it could be very useful. But just shifting your mindset from processed foods, like packaged processed foods, to preparing more whole foods is always going to be a trend or a move in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's what we all should be striving for, is just real food, and then eating to kind of our ancestry, or so like kind of Irish type foods are better for me, and not losing our heads when it comes to very expensive exotic superfoods. You know, that just the simple easy stuff usually is all we need.
Wait, hold on. My $12 cucumber water isn't going to make me run a minute per mile faster?
No.
Unless it said it on the package. Did it say it on the package, Ian?
Yes.
I think it said specifically, Ian, this will make you run a minute per mile faster.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah, it's going to work.
And did you pay $5 for that special gluten-free water?
Yes, it's $12.99 gluten-free water.
Yes. All right, excellent. All right, so let's roll over to a little bit of explanation of our workouts. Taya's got some really good information on our VO2 max and kind of how we're all hitting what Ian calls north of 40, which is coming up for me in just, 8 or 10 days here for me.
So I'll start by saying that, in that regard, even before we get to VO2 and the aging athlete, a lot of the members in the lab started working out consistently or getting into a training program after the age of 40 or after the age of 35. And so the question becomes, I'm getting older. Can I still get better as I age? And this is a very broad and complex topic. I'm not going to get into a lot of details. There's a lot of science. I'll provide some links in the forum so those of you who are interested in reading more about it can do so. But in general terms, regardless of the age at which you start, for example, cycling and training for that, for the first 3 years, you're still considered to be very new to the sport. And for those first 3 years, there are a lot of changes that are still happening at the cellular level. So your body is really shifting and adapting and changing to this new regime that you have and program that you have. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm an endurance athlete, I'm much better at going long and steady, or no, I'm a sprinter, etc. For the first 3 years, you're still building everything up. So you can't even tell what kind of athlete or what kind of cyclist, what's your phenotype. I mean, you can have an idea. There's software out there that you can plug in your workouts to figure that out. But really, just keep that in mind. There's a lot of changes still going on. And after those 3 years, there's still a lot of growth potential. Even if you start at age 40, 45, you still have a good 10 years ahead of you to really make progress and become a better athlete, faster, stronger, etc. So yes, there's the age factor, but there's also the fact that you are making all these changes and changing your body composition, your aerobic and anaerobic capacity, etc. With that in mind, as we age, there is a progressive decline in a couple of things, and I'll mention 3 here. There's declining aerobic capacity, so this is your VO2 capacity. There is increased body fat, usually. and a loss of muscle mass. And those three factors happen progressively up until age 70. And it's a steady, slow decline. Now, the studies that support that are done, I'm not sure whether they were done in the general population or really athletes, because there could be ways of reversing it or delaying it with your training. After age 70 is when things go into decline faster. So what can you do as an aging athlete? Well, VO2 for one can be reversed, not forever, but temporarily for a couple of years. So as we age, the tendency that we see with a lot of older athletes, and I'm talking about perhaps 55 plus, is they tend to ride or gravitate towards long, slow distance training. And start cutting back on intensity, start doing more easy miles, because those are comfortable and easier to recover from. But really, the key is to continue to do intensity. So stimulate your body to use more oxygen to produce energy so you can reverse the decline, the natural decline of anaerobic capacity. So doing more high intensity training, keeping in mind that as you're older, you're going to need more rest in between intense sessions. Doing back to back to back to back is probably not a good idea. And we talk about this quite a bit, recovery, etc. But as you age, that becomes even more important. Then there is the loss of muscle mass. This can also be managed by strength training. And strength training, we talk about this as well very often, is good for all athletes, especially for the aging athletes, so you can preserve your joints and continue to be strong throughout the years. The other thing with strength training that you might not know is it can make you faster. It can, you can have, it can even increase VO2 capacity with strength training, because what happens is you're developing more muscle, which in turn translates into more capacity to transfer oxygen to your muscles and have more of that, and therefore increase VO2 capacity. So strength training, good all around. And the third one, the increase in body fat as we age. And I'll ask Andrea to jump in here, but there are a couple of causes of increase in body fat as we age, and those could be hormonal. It could be due to stress. At the same time that I was mentioning, somebody might be starting to train at age 35, 40. That's also the age at which we are so busy. And I call it the sandwich age, because we're in the middle. We're taking care of our parents and we're taking care of our kids. And then we have our own busy lives that we're building. So it's really an increased stress when you're at around 30s to 50s.
Yeah, so just to speak with that, VO2 max is definitely something for, as we age as athletes, it's important just to start to try to understand and get a handle on that. As far as, hormonal changes, it is important to to get, where we're at and, the stresses that we're talking about. And of course, we need to remember kind of the goal that we're doing with all of this is we're just trying to enjoy our time, extend our lives, have a good time, and really enjoy the hobbies that we have, and just understanding that to try to get faster and to reach our goals, it's important to get that balance essentially.
Yeah, I think.
No, go ahead, Andrew.
I think around our late 30s, 40s, we also tend to start processing a lot around life and stress management, and maybe seeing the world with kind of fresh eyes regarding conditioning and perceptions and stuff like that. And it's just striking that balance of personal growth, enjoying our training, managing stress because it's going to come at us. It's how we grow. Managing our failures and learning to flip them over faster than we did when we were younger, not really giving a crap about what other people think.
Yeah.
But also about now, you really, really start to see the difference in those who take care of their bodies and those who thought they could just eat and live whatever lifestyle they wanted. You can't, you have to nourish and nurture, and you're going to age faster if you don't get in the goodness that your body needs. So self-care, big one. And when we're parents, it's a really great time to start showing our kids how to self-care, so they understand from the start, like, it's all about being proud of our bodies and working them optimally.
Yeah, one of our YouTube viewers here wanted to point out to Coach Ian that the comment of making sure that riders or endurance riders over 55 need more rest, to make sure that you are prescribing more rest to those riders, Ian.
I think some endurance riders over 55 need to suck it up and do what they're told.
That's funny. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for joining in, Deirdre. Great comments there in the YouTube channel. But all right, was there anything else there, Tia, for our VO2 conversation there?
No, I just want to add in there that one of the things I found, because I am north of 40, and I started training in my mid to late 20s, and I'm actually running now with my 2 mile time that I have to do fitness here faster still than when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. In fact, I'm about a minute and 20 faster than when I was 22.
I second that, Ian. I don't think age. I think we just keep getting better, like wine.
Exactly.
Or maybe it is the wine.
Yes, it's the wine I'm drinking is making me faster. No, it is. You can get faster. There are certain things that, like you said, you do have to do. You have to monitor your rest. I can't look. When I was 23, 24 years old, I could go out and run a 12-minute 2 mile and then go out the next, the night before, after that could have been a huge party night where I rolled in at 2, 3 in the morning, got up and did it. I can't do that anymore, but I'm faster now and I focus on my training, and it's a lot better than it was 10, 15 years ago.
And that's where the holistic approach comes in, because now that we're older and wiser, we can look at us as a whole in terms of nutrition, rest, training, etc.
Exactly.
All right, so we are going to switch over to the lab rat of the week. I think this is on Tia's docket here.
It's actually on Ian's.
Oh, it is, Ian. All right, yeah, 70.3, right? Yeah, Victoria, 70.3. That's right.
So we had one of our multi-sport and long course lab people race this last weekend at Ironman 70.3 Victoria in British Columbia. I don't know if I could ever do that race because it's cold, but Tina got out there and did an amazing race. So she's had a lot of time trying to train for, and she's done this race, these kind of races before. But this one is first time that Tina's actually done very much any work based on power. And we did all her training and her racing based on power versus just perceived effort and heart rate, which is what she's done in the past. And she not only set a better time than previously, and she was afraid she'd be close to the cutoff time of 8.5 hours, but figured about 8. She finished in 7:35, which
awesome.
is pretty darn good. And she didn't finish wiped out. She finished out very strong, and she had a great race. There's a little bit of cramping, things like that come with doing those races, but overall, she just did an amazing job. And her big concern going in was not finishing last in her group, which she did not. And she had very, very strong run and swim legs and a really good bike leg too. So overall, really proud of what she did. She put in a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, and balancing life work and training can get tough. And she just did an amazing job. So really, really proud of the effort she did. And I know she's really happy with her race. So we hope to be able to get Tina on track for the next one.
That's exciting. That is awesome to hear for the multi-sport side. I know from what I heard and when I was following along, that race is not an easy one weather-wise, and anything under 60 degrees is cold for Ian, so don't take that as a tough race.
Anything under 70 is cold for me.
All right, let's head over to On the Horizon. Tia, what do we have coming up in the next week to look forward to in the Endurance Lab?
So next week, if you have joined this lab 2 weeks ago, we're getting into a rest week. So this is where you take time to recharge, you take time to really replenish the energy, and that way, as you recover, as you know, you are also gaining adaptation. So you are getting stronger with the recovery. We have a mixed pedaling drills to start. Then we're going to move on to a mixed zones primer, which is a lighter workout that we, however, revisit all the zones that we typically use in riding. And then we have, at the end of the week, the Century Prep workout. This is a 2-hour, 15-minute ride that you can do outside or inside. If you can do it outside, even better, which is really a condensed workout designed to build endurance and the ability to ride for long periods of time. So you do it in 2 hours, but really the workout is preparing you to ride for a long time. The stimulus that you get is the equivalent of riding long for 5-6 hours. So great workout on that one. And that comes at the end of the rest week. So you should be ready for that one.
Awesome.
Yep. The other thing I will mention is for some of the athletes joining us in the lab right now, please go back and look at the introduction videos posted in the forum before you dive into the workouts. And as usual, just ask us any questions about changes in schedule. And if you have special circumstances, we have a couple of members who have things going on that they need more individualized help with their schedule and also changing the intensity of their workouts and moving things around on a weekly basis. We provide that service as well. So reach out to us if you are one of those.
Yeah, it's absolutely been great for those riders who needed a little extra input, other than just, where should I move this or that or the other. So definitely look into that. If you're looking for input, you get paired up with one of us and get some a little bit deeper information.
And the last thing I'll mention is we have the mental skills section of the forum with Coach Nate Last. Some great discussion there. We started with, how to overcome fear of riding or go back into racing after a crash, etc. Coach Last is a fantastic resource. So feel free to ask questions. He is keen to interact with everybody in the lab.
Yeah, Nate has been a great resource to the lab and overall, and his group, Mental Grit Consulting. If you're looking for more information on that, definitely check out his website. He's been a great resource for us here at the Endurance Lab from the beginning, and we thank him for that support. All right. Okay, I think we're good. Looks like we hit kind of everything we've got. Any other further comments from the coaches, definitely drop us a note in the forum. Check out in the forum at endurancelab.fit. I just want to thank everybody for joining us today here in the Coaches Corner, for Ian for making the move, getting everything set up and joining us as well. We look forward to having Coach Mitch back here. From what we understand, it's going to be a couple more weeks. And we are happy to have him back. Thanks, Rondria, for giving us the 100-foot view on intermittent fasting, and Taya for reminding us that as we get old, we might not go as fast. So,
not true.
But not true, but doesn't have to be true. That's right. So, all right. So signing off here. Thanks for joining us here today in the Coach's Corner. If it's your first time listening and would like to hear more content from the Endurance Lab, head over to your favorite podcast app and search the Endurance Lab, or head over to YouTube and do the same. And don't forget to click subscribe. For more information on when the next lab is, or to head over to the Endurance Lab, find endurancelab.fit to learn where you can join us to train smart, learn more, and get results. We'll see everybody next week.